Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
I have been making progress with my work productivity and stuff. That's actually been going really well lately, almost strangely well.
Mm-hmm. Hey, do you remember last time when we did minutes of meditation?
Oh, yes.
Would you like to do that again today?
Yeah. I think that might be helpful. But I do have, I think, a direction in which I want to go. And also, did you want to do the 1 minute of meditation before we dive into it, or?
If you would.
I am fine however you would prefer to do it.
Okay. We could do the 1 minute now, and then yeah, we could do 1 minute now, and then if you want to do more minutes sometime in the call, in our conversation, either of us could just bring that up.
That sounds good. Awesome.
Okay. I'll set a timer for 1 minute.
Alrighty.
Okay, that was a minute.
Alrighty. So
okay.
So work has been going really well, and I just started classes for grad school, and that's really exciting. And I feel like for the first time in a long time, I'm not down on myself about how much I'm doing. And so I feel like the progress on some of these parts has been, it was just a slow buildup of, while I was being all frustrated with the lack of progress, I was still slowly learning how to consider and honor the wishes of my parts.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. And I also I stopped being like super, like for a while I stopped being as serious about IFS because I found that I couldn't separate the seriousness from the agenda part. And I feel like there was a point where the agenda part finally just got tired and gave up and was like, I clearly can't make progress by pushing this, so I'm just not going to push it.
Wow.
And so for a while, I feel like I wasn't doing that much, but it seems like the not doing that much led to more being done.
All right.
Yeah.
Need to spread less IFS to the world.
Yeah. Or spread less in my internal system anyway, maybe. I don't know.
Congratulations. So feeling less down on yourself. That I'm thinking back to our last conversation, which involved shame that was always saying you're not doing enough, or you're relaxing, or you're doing it the wrong way. Well, I guess that was more agenda part, saying kind of here's how it needs to look. And sounds like both of them might have relaxed.
Yeah, I would say that I would say yes, and especially agenda part has chilled a bit. So cool. Yeah. I know. Yeah, so I meant to even like DM you and update you, but I've just been so busy.
You've been chilling too hard to message me.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to say, like, the fact that I'm not checking in does not mean that I'm not having a good experience, because it's sort of the opposite.
Yeah, you're not checking in, but you're not checked out.
Yes. So what I've been dealing with lately, and again, it seems like even just paying attention to this in the past week or so has helped a bit, but basically, and I don't mind you putting this in the final recording, I had an acid trip with a friend a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And it was fine. There was nothing wrong with the experience. Like, my friend was great. Like, we just chilled in my house. But I was feeling some distress, which I had anticipated I would, because I was feeling sort of on one level, a constant sort of gloom from this grief of losing my ex. And on the other hand, I had also had it extra triggered a few days prior from seeing a play that really brought my feelings to the surface. So that was, it was kind of challenging. Like, I didn't freak out. I didn't even tell my friend what was happening, because it's one of those things that you want to open up and you know that they would listen and care about you if you did, but you also just don't want to embarrass yourself.
Wow. So just so I'm clear, it's you and the friend, you've both taken the same amount, and you're alone together in your house.
Yes, just hanging out.
By the way, a thunderstorm just started, and sometimes that kind of knocks out my internet. So if I disappear, we'll figure it out.
Okay, no worries. So we were just hanging out. We had a lot of good conversations, and we definitely had some fun. But this was sort of at the anywhere from the back of my mind to the front of my mind at every particular time. And I remember laying on the couch, and while she was like in the bathroom, and I was just thinking like, okay, clearly there is a part here that needs help, and I am told that the thing to do is go towards whatever is scaring you with these things, and it wasn't like we didn't do like a high dose. It was like a normal dose. It was 100 micrograms.
Okay. So a high dose
so
is
I
like,
wasn't like, huh?
a high dose is like 150 or more. I don't know my acid doses very well.
I think you're breaking up a little
Well,
bit.
shit.
But yeah. But it's like, yeah, I would say that 100 micrograms is like normal average dose. Like
Okay.
higher than that is probably a high dose, and lower than that is a low dose.
Got it.
And if anyone is listening and thinking about getting into it, definitely start with a low dose. I did half of that for a number of times before I even went to a full one. So
good to know.
But yeah.
So you were going towards it. You had this idea about going towards the gloom and the grief.
Yeah, I was going towards, trying to welcome it and accept whatever came out. And so this part, I guess, came up. It really just manifested as a feeling and as sort of a set of thoughts. Nothing like super visual or in my imagination. No particular image, but it was this feeling that I've felt before when I've had like a really bad like weed experience, which I know I've talked about that before. Except that, different drug, different reaction to it. I wasn't just in this state of panic. I was able to sort of be there and move toward it in a reasonable way. And so I found out this information from it, that it's just really sad, that it feels like what happened was not okay, and there's just no way to reconcile it, no way to live with it. And I've always thought that that I generally wanted my life and wanted to be in it. And that is true for almost all of my parts. But for this one part, like, it does kind of feel like life is worthless. There's no point in continuing. That's because this happened. It's just like, it's fucked. So I really just want to welcome this part and open things up for it, because I did just remember the visual that I did have, like the mental image that I had was actually, I did have one. It was a feeling too of like drowning, of being like trapped underwater. You're trying to swim to the surface, but it's not even like there's something hard there. You cannot surface at all. And you're just, and this part just feels like it's constantly drowning and dying, but it can't actually die because parts don't die. So it's just, it's just underwater, suffocating all the time. And I felt this like constriction in my chest, like I was drowning a little bit.
Yeah. In that experience, did it feel like talking to parts? I mean, was that at all going through your head of, Oh, this is a part.
I lost you. Was that your head of?
Damn, sorry. During the experience,
Okay.
did it feel like you were talking to parts? Did that go through your head?
It felt like parts were emerging. Yeah, it didn't feel like I was totally blended with that part. Otherwise, I obviously would have been panicking probably, and I wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say it felt like there was a part, and that's kind of what I've struggled with, is like, either I want to live or I want to die, and obviously I want to live. But it turns out there's one part of me that wants to die, and the rest of them want to live. And that ability to have that multifaceted thing going on I find that actually really helpful, because I can acknowledge that feeling without feeling totally threatened by it.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like when you go to a therapist and then you have to fill out the form and they say, "Have you ever thought of suicide?"
Yeah.
You could say like, "Well, part of me, sure."
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah.
I know what happens when you put sure. I know what happens when you put sure. Who hasn't? Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, so and then, I mean, was there a conclusion, or did you just kind of make contact with that part and then that's where you left it?
I made contact with it. I feel like I accepted it more than I ever had, which felt good for both it and me. And I feel like I still, even afterwards, I kept making an effort to remember it existed and accept it. I even wrote something down about it so that I wouldn't forget about it, because I felt that it was very, very helpful that I was able to pinpoint this, instead of just feeling a general sense like the world was a shade grayer than it should be. Mm-hmm. I actually found the source of the pain, and I felt that was really valuable, and that this part has just suffered so much, and it definitely doesn't deserve to be forgotten about and tossed away again. And so I do feel like perhaps, especially because I've been in a pretty good mood all week, I feel that it's perhaps partially unburdened, but I really want to ensure that it just gets taken care of.
Yeah, just through being acknowledged.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I mean, it just sounds so good what you've noticed and where you are with parts.
Yeah, it feels a lot nicer than before. I also worked through some stuff, I think, with agenda part, where I was able to, and I want to keep doing this as well, but I was able to sort of acknowledge its frustration, not just ask it to step back, but actually identify with some of its despair, because really all it wants is just to be okay and not to feel terrible all the time. And I think that's a very reasonable thing to want. And I feel like if it gets upset and frustrated and angry about not being able to ever have that, then, maybe its efforts aren't helping the process, but mm-hmm. It's totally understandable that it.
Yeah, you want to welcome that. You want to welcome how it feels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's been so frustrated. Like, please just give me something. Like, I need this to be to be better than it is, like that kind of energy.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I would just like to get closer to that sad exile. And I even remember in a past session, we were working with Undeserver, and Undeserver said the exile is sad. And the exile is sad. He was right. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. When you think about doing that, are there parts that come up that object to doing that?
Yeah, there's a little bit of fear that it'll be intense if I really focus directly on it. And there's a little bit of a fear that I'll lose the progress that I've made, like in terms of feeling like I'm feeling good this week. I'm having a good week. And what if delving into this makes me have a bad week, and then I don't do the things I need to do, I don't get my work done, and then not getting my work done makes me feel even worse, and I just go back to the way I was before. Like, that's kind of the fear. Yeah.
Sounds like a reasonable fear.
Yeah.
Could be intense, huh? Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any ideas of how we could?
It's not. Well, it's not like a huge fear. Like, I'm not sitting here feeling a bunch of palpable anxiety. It's just that is on my mind. So I don't think these parts are like totally resistant to stepping back, but they do need, I guess, some kind of reassurance. And I guess what I can tell them is like, we don't have to go all the way deep into it immediately. We can edge toward it slowly, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
how does it respond to hearing that from you?
They do feel a bit better hearing that we don't have to just dive in completely. It's not all or nothing.
Maybe you could kind of pre-plan, like, here's the intensity that if I get to this intensity, that's when I'll know I'm going too much and I'll step back. Something like that.
Yeah. I wonder what that point would be. I mean, I guess they can just let me know, right? Like, yeah.
Even better. Even better. Yeah. Let them do what they do.
Yeah, because they're gonna do it anyway, so may as well sanction it. It's weird how the word sanction means both to allow and to disallow, but in this case, I obviously mean allow.
You're just being so welcoming of all these parts.
Thank you. I try.
I mean, does it?
I think it is.
Go ahead.
I think it is because Agenda Part has stepped back. Like, Agenda Part, like, I feel like almost had a problem with not going deep, and then it was like, no, it's fine. I've learned this lesson before, and it's just chilling. So awesome. I really think that so much of my difficulty was that Agenda Part was just having a rough time in the past.
Yeah. Okay. Any other parts have any concerns about you going to this sad one?
I know that Undeserver is in there, and it will. I think it is the main part, or he is the main part that is keeping the exile in that like suffocating box of water or whatever, because it just feels that he has to, in order to keep a sense of like a realistic understanding of the world, sort of, because there's a feeling that, well, things are fucked, and if we if we let the exile out and we start believing that things aren't fucked, then we're in a delusional fantasy world, and that's not real.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we were to just pretend that there aren't problems in the world,
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
in your system, that would.
Yeah, the message is kind of like, well, if you want to die, that sucks, but like, what happened happened. Nothing I can do to change the facts.
Right. Yes. There's nothing it can do to change that, and there's nothing that we can do to end the problems in the world, all of them.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling towards Undeserver?
Sorry, toward what?
How are you feeling towards Undeserver?
I feel a little scared that he is scared that he's right, or that even if he's not right, he won't stop. Mostly scared that he's right. And also I am feeling understanding of him. Like, I don't really blame him for keeping the exile in such a bad position. Like, as much pain as the exile is in, like, I get it. I get why he feels like he has to do that. He's not doing it because he is some kind of sadist and just enjoys it. Like, he hates it too.
Right. Okay. Yeah, let him know you see that. And
Yeah.
when you say there's a fear that he's right, that is fear that he's right, that if you were to heal this part, that you might become delusional about the things that are fucked up in the world?
There is sense that if I were to heal that part, then it wouldn't be real, it wouldn't be true, and then there's like a sense of like, don't give me false hope that healing is possible. Because if it's wrong, if I take the good thing and the good thing isn't real, then I have nothing, and it's better to just not hope for that.
Okay. How do you respond to that?
I think you may be cutting out again.
How do you respond to that?
The message about hope, I would say, well, it certainly makes sense to me. Because, yeah, like, thinking you have something and not having it is worse than knowing you don't have it. And I would also say that based on what I know about how IFS works, it seems like healing is possible because so many other people have healed this way. And I've been through the whole chapter in the IFS textbook about how when you unburden an exile, you're not screwing up your memory of the past. You may be redoing your past in a certain sense, but you never forget what really happened. But then the response to that is sort of like, well, I mean, of course, the creator of IFS would say that you're not distorting the truth.
Right.
He probably believes it, and he probably really wants to believe it, but is he right?
Right. Good questions. Okay.
I think in general, the dream of IFS being quote unquote real and true is something that is hard for Undeserver to believe. He wants to believe it, but it goes against his sort of it goes against his whole purpose in protecting me, which is to be that cynical eye of like, you might want this to be true, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really value that and appreciate that. And I'm glad that we have parts that look out for that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm sure he's saved me countless times from
bullshit.
Buying into things that would have been harmful. Yeah.
Right. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that we could, I mean, he was concerned about kind of false hopes. And yeah, I think we could do it without any false hopes. I think we can go to parts with just an open curiosity. And that's also part of going slow, is neither of us know how long this will take, how intense it might be, right, what degree of healing we can bring to a part, how healed it might stay over time. So, you know, and I hope you never are getting that message from me of like, just go do it and you'll be great. You know, like, I'm not selling that.
Yeah. No. And it used to kind of trigger agenda part when you would even remind me of that. And I don't really feel nearly as much of that anymore.
Yeah. It's another thing I wanted to call attention to is your relationship with agenda part. I wonder if you can show that to the undeserver and say, look, the way my relationship has changed with agenda part is not, agenda part isn't suddenly everything's perfect and it never comes up. Agenda part and isn't suddenly delusional. You know, you're not like making things up about agenda part. Like, your relationship is deeper with it now that you're able to accept it and value what it brings.
Undeserver has an interesting reaction to that, which is he's very two-sided, as all parts are, I think. And the response to that is like, if it's something that's slow progress and doesn't involve a sudden realization, a sudden shift in the way that I view the situation, then it's not good enough, because it means that things are still fucked and I'm just learning to live with things being fucked. And that's kind of the problem, is learning to live with it is not
good enough.
I'm struggling to put the feeling into words, but it's a very specific feeling of this this sort of coping is never what I have wanted for my life. I want to be completely free, and if I'm not, then things are fucked.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me about how he was saying, you know, is healing possible? It does have this kind of black or white element, it sounds like, where it's like, well, yeah, if we're not going all the way, if we're not healing all the way, then why are we, then don't give me the false hopes. This is just coping. This is just. Yeah.
Yes.
And how do you feel towards him as you see him in that frame of mind, or in that?
I get it, and I feel bad because I get it, like, and he's he's like the two sides of the coin, the cynic and the idealist at the same time. And I really just so badly want I really want this world that he wants to believe in to be real for him.
Yeah.
I think I'm somewhat blended with him.
Yeah, sounds like it. But,
Yeah.
I mean, good catch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that world was real, then that means that you could have that big insight, have that I'm at the finish line, we're done. All is well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got parts like that.
Yeah. I think you may have cut out again. Or
I just said I have parts like that.
You have parts like that. If you said something just now, I also didn't hear.
No, I'm just thinking.
Okay, because your last sentence got cut off too, so I just wasn't. I'm never sure how long you're talking when it cuts out. I'm being slow. I may keep asking.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't say anything.
Okay.
Anything. Really, I'm just thinking about your relationship with him, with this undeserver. I'm thinking about where it is, where it's been, what he needs from you.
I mean, he definitely needs somebody to accept these things about him when self is that someone for sure. And that, I think that's helping and will help as time goes by. I don't know, it's like he needs to be given permission to want these things and to not be told that he's being overly idealistic, and not be told that the world can't be not be told that he has to settle for less. And I feel like the direction that's going is that maybe there was a line that I heard on an IFS podcast that kind of stuck with me, which is that parts think at first that they have to settle for unconditional love from self, and then as time goes by, they find out that they're not settling at all.
Settle for unconditional love?
Yeah, like instead of good things happening, self loves you and self is here, and it's like yeah, but like I want the good thing to happen.
Oh, right.
But then it turns out slowly that unconditional love does fill the voids in a way that the parts did not trust it would at first.
Right. Yeah, well, you just said that what it wants is permission to want these things and to not be told that that's crazy, or so.
Yeah.
It does sound to me like what it wants is a relationship. It also wants to see the world this way and that way, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it wants to not be alone in how it feels and its understanding.
And I think it is serving a very important purpose in preserving that idealism, because so many people I've noticed, when something like this happens, when someone dies of an addiction, the line that everyone gets together and repeats is like, you couldn't have made them change,
Right,
or
right.
they didn't want it bad enough, or
Right.
they were just, after a certain point, there was nothing anyone could do. And
Yes.
I hate all of that. And yes, like, it's true that now that he's dead, he will never come back. But like, I will die on the hill of that it didn't have to happen this way.
Yeah.
Like, it did, in the sense that, free will isn't real or whatever.
Yeah.
But like,
no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yes.
Those are
justifications.
justifications.
We can prevent things like this from happening if we have the
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and if that was our answer to everything, like, we wouldn't try to do anything, right? We would just
Yes. Right.
So
Right. And every person who recovers, I swear, has somebody that they're like, if this person hadn't been there for me, I don't know where I would be. And so it just does not make sense that there was nothing anybody could do at certain points,
Right.
Like, it was always, yes, like, partially his choice to do the things he did, but like, people don't make choices in a vacuum. We're all so interconnected, and
Right.
and protectors make these choices. It's like not even a real choice a lot of the times when we're taking these actions. It's like the protector just kicks in and makes us do things that we don't want to do.
Right.
And it's like Dick Schwartz says, parts don't ask permission. And so with that understanding, addiction makes complete sense.
Yeah. So yeah, it was preventable, right? This was a preventable death, a preventable accident.
Yes, it was.
And having an ideal about a world in which terrible things that couldn't be prevented are prevented, I think is beautiful. And yeah, we definitely need that.
Yeah, I agree.
Is Undeserver receiving that message from you?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he has been, like, I think, throughout the conversation. It doesn't feel like it's entirely enough, but he is taking in some of that validation.
Yeah. And this isn't a criticism of him, but he's kind of the not enough part. Like, that's part of his ideal about the world, is that we can always do more.
Yeah.
So.
Or that we can't always do more as individuals. Sometimes people are maxed out, but we can do more as a society. Like, part of the reason that I stopped being able to do things is because I was, not in every way, but in some significant ways, I was alone in trying to help this person. And so there's a real feeling of alienation from society of, like, these systems were supposed to protect us, like the medical system, the mental health system, the community, his family. They were supposed to be stepping in so that I wasn't the one who all this shit fell on. And it didn't quite exactly happen that way. And so, yeah, there's self-blame, but then when I dig even deeper, there is a feeling that, humanity is just in a bad state. that you can't count on people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how does it feel just getting that out and yeah, us being okay with that? How does it feel being able to get that out? And does Undeserver feel like that we're okay with that he has permission to feel those things?
He does feel like I'm acknowledging it and you're acknowledging it. Like he's nobody's fighting him on these important things that he's bringing to us, and that feels good. On some level, it also feels bad because there's no sudden realization that everything's actually fine. But it is good to be listened to and not be like run around like, oh, there was really nothing you could have done or whatever, like, which is what a lot of people say. And I've really had to learn to just sort of stand up for him in those moments and not agree with whoever's saying it, as well intentioned as it might be.
Yeah, he helped you with that.
Yeah.
Helped you find the right or stay away from what felt like the wrong kind of support.
Yeah. And he feels bad partially because this was always sort of a truth that he was bringing to me. And there were many times when I did listen. But there were also times when it seems like sort of there were just so many people telling me this, and I was having such a bad time with my ex. Like I was, it was just a constant traumatic experience for years on end. And so it's really hard to go by that internal compass when everything you're doing seems to make you feel worse. And on top of that, other people are telling you that you're doing the wrong thing. There's like no positive feedback for fighting this good fight, so to speak.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, he feels that if I had stuck to my guns, things might have been different. If I hadn't let that mindset if I hadn't I guess chickened out is sort of a bad phrase to use, but that's the basic idea. Like if I hadn't sort of gotten so exhausted that I just went along with the party line that I knew in my heart was wrong.
So Undeserver wishes that you were more attentive, listening, accepting of the things in your heart.
Yes.
Okay.
The things that he was telling me were the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we might all be on the same mission here.
Say that again?
I think we might all be on the same mission.
How's that?
Well, I believe that the path of IFS is not one where we snap fingers and have the insight and everything's fine, but it's one of listening to all the parts inside of us and being better informed by them. And this part is saying you weren't listening to me. And I got overridden, and maybe other parts got overridden, and now there's regret, or there's, that was traumatic.
Yeah.
And
yes. And I oscillate between blaming myself and blaming society. And there are things I wish I had done differently, but I'm also furious that that all of that was put on me in order to just keep this human being alive.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't have been controversial that he needed help.
Right.
And yet it somehow was.
Right. Controversial. Everybody else's opinions, systems and institutions and society not providing what they at least say they want to provide.
Yeah. Like, he definitely got help. I would even say that he received considerably more help than most people in his position do, which is infuriating on a different level. But there were people, just people in treatment programs that were like, you have to do it this way. You have to get into like AA, or, you'll be lost, or like we'll detox you for 12 hours and then send you out on the street with a packet of info, not a single visit from a social worker. Like, or like you have to just let him experience the consequences of his actions. You have to let him hit rock bottom. Well, like, if he hits rock bottom, like, there's a chance that he might not be able to climb back up. So Yeah. And then my favorite thing is, like, you have to take care of yourselves. Yes, I do. So can someone else watch him while I take care of myself? Because taking care of myself also means preventing outcomes that are mentally damaging to me, like him dying.
Absolutely. You're in a system.
Yeah.
This is a system. Yeah. That is taking care of yourself. This is someone you care about.
Yes. Yeah. There's this idea that we are all an island and that we can just be happy through this idea of individual self-care.
Yeah. And I think that also can be something that IFS, that could be a criticism of IFS, where it's like, oh, is our only goal just to look inward and tell myself I'm okay,
Well, that's what I really like about Dick Schwartz, is he focuses like equally on both things. Like, he has so much stuff to say about changing society with IFS.
Yes, he does. Yep. And I think ultimately it's when you can lead internally, then you can lead externally, and that those are interconnected. Those are dependent on each other.
They are. Yeah, he talks a lot about that too. Like, you can't have inner work without outer work, and you can't have outer work without inner work.
Yeah. How's Undeserver feeling about our conversation and the attention on his stuff?
He's feeling validated but bruised, I think, is the
bruised
thing. Like, yes, just not like bruised by us, but like bruised by the world, bruised by the fact that he's right in some cases. Like, just, he feels good in the sense that he's receiving attention and validation, but bad in the sense of like, man, don't validate me. Show me some way where everything's actually fine. Like,
yeah. I had a thought about that. Again, that kind of big insight that solves things, and how he kind of wishes for that, which is fine. And I don't want I don't want to invalidate that, but I did have a thought about if we could do that, if we could do it so instantly, would we deserve it? Like, he's the undeserver, and what I'm kind of pitching here is, well, this is a path, and it's a process to get this part that's drowning some relief, perhaps, or like, if it was, I don't know, I just wondered if that might resonate with him, of kind of, this is how we could think of, no, I do deserve this because here's all the steps I took to get to it, and that in that way it can be more meaningful, and we can feel we can earn, we can earn whatever healing that we've done because we got the receipts, and it wasn't just something that we found in a book and was like, I found that page I needed to read,
Right.
And no one else did. So, yeah. I don't know if any of that.
I think it would have to square with the facts somehow. That's the thing. And I'm not saying, like, I know that all of this does, like, all of it does square with the facts, because I was doing the best I could with the knowledge I had, and so is everyone else, and so what happened was preventable, but it wasn't preventable in the sense that if it happened, then that is what I was capable of, and so there's no real reason to blame myself or really to blame anyone else if we're going to get, like, very down to, like, the...
It's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, my undeserver was rebelling hearing you say that. Everyone's doing their best all the time. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can make that argument too, but I don't think we have any way to it's not satisfying, and it's also not something we can verify. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe someone's out there not doing their best with the information they have. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, with the understanding of, like, protective parts, and if we all truly have a self that wants the best, and our protective parts are also trying their best to protect us, then, maybe everyone is really doing their best. But I mean, that answer is only satisfying up to a point. Like, because there's a sense that if, of course, anything, like, of course, everything is understandable. Like, that is just a fact of life, but that doesn't give life meaning. There's no stakes to that worldview. There's nothing to lose. There's nothing to gain. It's just, it's kind of a nihilistic way of being, almost.
Right. It kind of takes the meaning out of things, because it's just, as does the no free will thing. It's kind of like, oh, okay, so why try?
Yeah.
No meaning. Don't deserve it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, he wants something more, but he is pretty convinced that there is nothing more to uncover that's gonna radically change the way he feels. But
how are you feeling towards him?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't feel as bad about that as I used to. Right. And I don't know why. Maybe it was from connecting with the exile.
Or just from hearing him out. I mean, maybe it's, again, like your relationship with agenda part, where it's kind of like, we've been here, I've heard what you have to say, and I don't disagree, and it matters, and I see when you come up and where you come up and why you come up. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an understanding without being blended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the way back, or the way to the big realization is just a slow forming of a relationship with self somehow. But it doesn't even make sense when I say that. It doesn't even make sense to me when I say that, but that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting.
Yeah. And can you, because it didn't really make sense to me a whole lot, only because you started with the way to this big realization. And maybe that would be worth learning from him, or wherever that's coming from, of what is the big realization?
I think the big realization might be that it might be something along the lines of that I am a good person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's part of what's so up for debate for him is, like, am I good? Am I worthwhile? Am I deserving? And being able to hold these two things at the same time, that this happens, and also that I'm deserving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this undeserver is the philosophical part.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the philosophical, are you good? And then there's the I have a part that doesn't feel good, and I can maybe help it feel better. I wonder if he or you
say that last part again.
Yeah.
I have a part that what?
There's the philosophical, moral, what is good? Am I good?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That what defines that. And then there's also just parts that are sad, parts that feel worthless.
Yeah.
And what self can do for them, which is about as far from a philosophical as I think we can get, where it's like, oh, this part needs a hug.
Right.
And now it feels better. And so I'm wondering if that's a useful distinction, or a recognition of what Undeserver is talking about, where
I think they're related, because in order to hug the part, Undeserver has to decide that it deserves a hug.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree that we have to solve the philosophical. I'm not sure that I agree that Undeserver has to have that answer, that philosophical answer.
Well, it at least has to be able to step back enough. It has to choose to step back.
Yes. Well, it can, and it negotiates that with you.
Yeah.
And we've seen in this conversation and in other conversations how to do that, or how to do that to degrees.
Yeah, but I do feel like if there's not some sense of deservingness, then he's either gonna prevent the exile from being reached, or he's going to, if the exile is reached, just put the exile back where it was.
Yeah.
Like, he does have to be convinced of something in order to change, in order to allow access. But then I also feel like it's a two-way street, where unburdening the exile also convinces him.
That's right. And that's another way that we could have gone, and maybe we can go in the future, where, okay, give it a shot, see what we can do in 10 minutes, see if we can move this a percentage, and how that changes his perception of the value of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He mentioned, at the start, wanting permission to believe what he believes and to say what he's got to say. How does he feel about this whole conversation and your ability to receive that and make space for him to have those beliefs?
He feels a bit more like he definitely feels like I am hearing him, and I think a lot of it is that agenda part is not pushing him change.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference. So he doesn't feel like he's going to be forced into accepting something he doesn't want to accept.
Right.
Which is where a lot of his fear came from in the past.
Right.
I'm getting more of a, it used to be like a, oh God, oh no. And now it's more of like a, which is progress.
It is. I'm glad you recognize that. I think it's progress too.
Yeah. There's a feeling like the stakes of this might not be as high as he thought they were, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. And I think part of that also was making contact with the exile and validating that there was a part of me that might want to like die, and that almost gave me an understanding that, this is gonna sound like so macabre. I promise I'm not like about to go kill myself. But like,
all right, noted.
There was a realization that
I have it on recording.
Dying
go ahead.
Yes, you do. Dying is an actual option. And
it
then,
is.
And then realizing that made me realize that, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, that's like he was saying. He wants permission to have his feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agenda part got permission to have its feelings. He wants permission to have his.
Yeah.
Undeserver wants permission, and the way Undeserver gets permission because agenda part isn't in here jumping on him. And you can reflect that and say, look, I can go to this exile without you, Undeserver, and your worldview about whatever, just in the same way I can make a space for you to be you, and that's great. I can go to any part, make a space for them to be them without the interference of other parts. That's the whole thing. That's the whole goal, is to free parts up from that fight and that just entanglement of being pushed around by other parts.
Yeah. So, yeah.
How's he feel about all of that? Just everything that we've been talking about.
It feels like better than he used to. Yeah.
And that's the gradual process. That's the gradual process we might be able to do with an exile.
Yeah. Yeah, he feels more like a grumpy 14-year-old rather than a looming existential threat, I think.
Yeah. And I just want to let him know. I'm not going
to say he's not a threat, but but he feels less of one.
Yeah, I just want to let him know again that I really appreciate the grumbling. I really appreciate the idealism, and I appreciate also the philosophical, what is good, kind of inquiry. Like, I don't want those to go away in me. I don't think of those as bad things.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, he like the enormous pain of the truths that he brings, like there's so much reason to want to squirm away from that, and yet not squirming away from it is like the core of what it means to like have like live a real authentic life and be like a spiritual person, right? So
Sounds like the big realization if I've ever heard one.
yeah.
No, I'm not. Right. I mean, I'm serious. Like, not squirming away
yeah.
from the things that we're uncomfortable with, but instead facing them is the core of an authentic life.
Yes. Okay. The thing is, he just wishes that it had happened sooner. That's all. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the grief that it didn't.
Right.
Slowly. We have to move towards.
Yeah. Some of that grief is about what society didn't provide.
Yeah. And it's the feeling of loss at not being able to just compensate for that lack of support with my own stamina, my own courage. Basically, I just wish that I had I know that at the point in my life that I'm at now, okay, well, I don't know this, but there's a feeling that at the point that I am in my life now, if the same thing happened, I would know how to respond to it properly without either checking out or burning myself out. And I understand that is a very difficult thing to learn and not something that we can really expect from somebody in their early 20s at this point, to be able to just negotiate this entire situation where someone has a life-threatening stigmatized illness. Like, well, someone of any
age who doesn't have those resources, who doesn't have that understanding and doesn't have, again, I'll just say self-leadership, of that ability to respond to all the different parts that would come up around such a scary thing, a traumatic thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't know anyone else who would have done even necessarily what I did. Or, I mean, I know maybe some like parents of people, but I don't know another like girlfriend who's gotten this far with it. I'm sure there is one somewhere, but I just, or really like ex-girlfriends, and we didn't date for very long. But it's still just like, it happened, and I know there was a better way to approach it. And it may have been unrealistic of me to expect that of myself, but I'm still just very sad that it didn't happen in time.
Yeah. And are you able to just make space for that sadness now? Does that sadness feel okay as it is now, being with you, being in this conversation?
It feels half okay, half a little bit little bit threatening, but not entirely threatening. There's definitely some space for it. Like, it feels good to just be reminded to sit with it.
Yeah.
So that is the path. Yeah, there's a feeling of like, why couldn't it have just happened sooner? Why couldn't it have gone my way? I worked so hard, and this was such a foundational chunk of my life. It was something that was so important to me. And, you know, it was someone else's life too that just got ruined. And it just would have, you know, like, it's little things like watching a movie and there's a happy ending. And I think, well, I didn't get my real life happy ending. Or watching a movie and there's a sad ending and being like, yep, that's what happened to me too.
Yeah.
Play that I saw was Hades Town, and it was about spoiler alert for Hades Town. It's a very good play. But yeah, basically there's this couple and they almost, and she dies or gets taken down to the underworld or whatever, and he has a chance to bring her back. He works so hard, he gets himself this one chance, and then he's bringing her back. All he has to do is walk in front of her without looking back at her. And then once they both emerge back into the real world, she'll be there and she'll be alive again. And he's just like a few steps away from emerging, and he can't stop himself, and he looks back and he sees her behind him. She was there the whole time, but now she's gone forever. And that is the feeling that I have too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, Orpheus, that's the character's name. Like, I know exactly how you feel right now, buddy. It fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And I noticed that I didn't feel resentment towards him. I didn't feel that he had made, like, I didn't feel that he was stupid or bad or anything. I just felt like, yep, it's awful.
Does this feel like that same part that was drowning? Are we kind of getting into that space with it?
I do think so.
And how does Undeserver feel about the way that you are doing that or can do that?
He's not really making any kind of fuss right now.
Okay.
He doesn't feel that this is just acknowledging the sadness is not interfering with his worldview, and it's also not as much a source of emotional overwhelm as he previously anticipated, I guess. So.
Yeah. We're just acknowledging it. There's no selling false hopes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're almost at an hour and a half.
Yes.
What does he need? How can we or you get back to this place and continue this work in the future?
I don't know. I think just by continuing it, like, I don't even know if there's anything in particular, like a strategy or anything. I'm just going to remember how this feels and go back to this and slowly experience it getting revealed over time.
Yeah. I think that's a fine answer. Do you know when our next date is?
I have been like having so many issues with my calendar, but it says that it's on the 19th, but I don't know if that's even true. Because I didn't have it on my calendar for today, and I just saw an email coincidentally that I was like, oh my gosh.
Okay. Okay. I asked because if it's far away and maybe we want to get back to this sooner than later, then I'm open to that.
Yeah, so I have something on my calendar for the 19th and I have something for the 26th, but I'm not sure if those are both.
Okay.
You might want to, what you have.
Yes, I will double check all of that.
Awesome.
And yeah, if we are talking in a week, then I'd love to bookmark this if that sounds like the right thing to do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to get into this again soon.
Okay. I'll go double check all that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. As always, I really appreciate your help.
I appreciate everything you're doing. I appreciate those parts of yours and looking forward to continuing.
You. Awesome.
Yay.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye. You too.
Bye. Bye. Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows? That might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube, and they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.